Hello, horror fans, and welcome once again to the Horror OBs. Today, I'll be talking about the last part in the Wailer trilogy. Now, the reason, as I said before, the reason I did a separate video for part 3 is because I believe, and it's my opinion, that the Wailer 3 has nothing to do with 1 and 2. It's more of a standalone story. Now, the movie is about Daniel and Alice, who go and visit Alice's mother after her father has died. Now, Alice believes that her father's death was a suicide, while her mother is convinced that it wasn't suicide, that it was murder. And Daniel, well, you can tell right away that he doesn't get along with his mother-in-law, so he at first doesn't really much care what's going on, but just went along to accompany Alice. And accompanying both Daniel and Alice are their children, who their daughter asks so many questions according to her grandfather's death. Once there, the daughter asks about these portraits that are hanging in the dining room, and the grandmother tells her granddaughter that they're portraits of their ancestors. Now, there's one portrait in particular that she doesn't really want to discuss, and this pretty much is where the aspect of La Llorona comes in, which I still don't believe it's just a couple of links towards the legend of La Llorona. So then, come night, Alice talks to Daniel about still wanting her mother to live with him. Daniel disagrees, and that is pretty much the end of the conversation that night. Come morning, and Alice finds her mother in the pool, drowned. Now, after they find her, obviously she is destroyed now that she's lost both of her parents. And this brings in the police. And not that they have a suspect or anything, but they do still have questions. As Daniel and Alice are about to leave, detectives come in and they want to question Daniel. And after taking Daniel and being there all day, they show him evidence that what happened to his mother-in-law was no accident. They show marks which kind of look like claw marks around her neck. So that indicates that it was no accident, that she was actually murdered. So that leaves to Daniel wanting to get his family out there. Now, while all this is happening, there's a big storm that's raging on, and before Daniel can even get to them, there's a roadblock, and there's no way that he can get to his family. While back at home, or back at his mother-in-law's home, his family are experiencing a strange activity, and they fear for their own lives. So the cop that has the roadblock tells him that he can't go there. There's no way that he'll let him through, but he wants to find the nearest phone. So he tells him about this hotel. As soon as he gets to this hotel, at first the hotel manager or the hotel clerk doesn't want him to use the phone and tells him there's phones in the room. So just to use the phone, he rents out a room. He comes to the realization that the phones don't work. So he goes back and tells the hotel clerk, and then the hotel clerk first is hesitant to let him use the phone until he tells him where he has to go. Now, the house is already a house so that everybody whispers in the neighborhood that is either haunted or kids shouldn't go there. And as soon as the clerk finds this out, he lets him use the phone. he talks to his family and he tells them that he can't get through. And there's no way that he can get to them, at least tonight. And he hears the panic in his wife's voice, and then hears the panic in his children's voice, and the last thing that he hears from his daughter is, "She's trying to kill us." With that said, he panics, he goes back to the roadblock, gets into a little accident, he runs, gets to the house, and he slips into the pool, I believe, or at least that's what, I saw, because it was so distorted somehow with all the rain and everything, and then it's kind of dark. And he finds that his wife has drowned, but his children are missing and he can't find them. So then we flash forward, and he's in a wheelchair. So obviously, from that slip, from that accident he had that nearly almost killed him, he is paralyzed. And now it's been 3 months. He has a caretaker by the name of Africa. It's very rare, which is kind of sort of racist, I guess, because she is African American, but her name is Africa, so I found that kind of like, okay. Anyways, so he is destroyed, doesn't want to know nothing, he just wants to be left alone. And little by little he unravels and he starts to uncover more and more mysteries that surround his wife's family and their descendants. It turns out that one of the descendants of his wife's family, the one in that portrait where his mother-in-law didn't want to talk about, had a history of drowning her kids. Now this is where La Llorona comes in, the only links that they have. So the movie is pretty long, nothing much really happens, there's not a lot of killings, and the killings that there are just pretty much drownings. You don't see La Llorona until maybe towards the end, and you just get a glimpse of her, and you get a glimpse of her here and there. You pretty much get steam from the pool, and then you see a little bit of her, but you don't know if it's her or if it's the wife. And then it turns out that the hotel clerk is also part of that family descendants. And all in all, he finds the remains of his kids and other children that had gone missing. And after he believes he has written of this dark entity, he leaves the house thinking that it's all safe and sound. Now, this is the least favorite of the trilogy, of the Wailer trilogy, and it's pretty much, if you still want to see it just because it's part of the trilogy, you can. It's, like I said, it's not my favorite one, it's not the best part of it, and I myself would just stick to part 1 and 2, particularly 1, which is my favorite of the trilogy. This one, if you want to avoid it, it's great, it's fine, you can. It has nothing to do, as I said, with 1 and 2. It's a standalone story. But then again, this is just my opinion, don't take my word for it. If you haven't seen the Wailer trilogy, give it a shot, try it out, maybe you'll find something you like. And till then, hope you like what you see, and see you, thanks for watching, and see you on the next video.